So the big picture, we call it eMarketing. HubSpot calls it inbound marketing. There's lots of terms for it, internet marketing. We put together an integrated internet marketing system, which is always changing. I'm sure you guys see social media changing before your eyes every other week. We start with 5 steps, and a lot of people forget steps 1 and steps 5. In fact, a lot of people just jump into step 4, social media, without taking any consideration into strategy or analytics and stats that help you and dictate the strategies you can make. So step 1, we focus on strategy. Step 2, the website and the blog, which is kind of the keystone of the internet marketing campaigns. Email marketing, social media, and then stats, which then filter back into your strategies. So this is our overall kind of big picture that we paint for internet marketing. And I try to simplify it by calling out exactly what these things are. And it's a little variation, but we can say plan it, create it, publish it, socialize it, analyze it, back to planning it again. Strategize is, goals and strategies is your plan it aspect, and create it is creating content. It's very key to create content because this is what you then publish to your blog, your website, your email newsletters, and socializing it is the next step to get your content out there, and then back into measuring the success by analyzing it, which then helps you formulate your strategies again. So I tried to simplify that as much as possible because our steps, and in fact, there's really a lot more to those steps, but we tried to summarize those steps as well. It depends on a lot of factors. If you're a small business, if you're a large corporate business, your strategies and your efforts can, really your budgets and your team and lots of things come into play to factor how big your strategy and how big the overall campaign is. Parts of how you do that is step 1, goals and strategies. Defining your audience, defining weekly and monthly goals, building the brand, recognizing calls to action. If you're not familiar what a call to action is, a call to action is typically on your website. A call to action for most people would be lead generation or request a quote or a purchase from a shopping cart or something of that nature. So you want to make sure you're always reinforcing and defining what your main calls to action are. Why are you doing all this in the first place? Integrate and funnel plan, that's essentially making sure that all these channels that you're focused on are integrated. So if somebody's on your website, they can easily follow you on social media or sign up for your newsletter, and vice versa across the board. Newsletters are promoting social media and website. Social media is promoting website and newsletters. Assign tasks and responsibilities, and have a management strategy. So a couple examples I outline here are, a lot of times people don't know what to post or don't know what to do exactly. So setting goals and setting realistic goals is a very important aspect. And also not knowing what to post, setting up weekly calendars can help you stay on task. Some examples here, we can just go over 1 blog article per week, pretty aggressive, but depends again on your strategies and the size of your business and your audience. 5 Facebook posts per week, 5 Twitter posts per week, 30 minutes on Facebook per day, just management and moderation, responding to questions. 15 minutes on Twitter, 10 minutes on Yelp, just for moderation. This is again just an example. A weekly calendar, some other examples. Monday, you would maybe focus on upcoming events. Tuesday, a staff bio or office photos. Wednesday, joke of the day. Thursday, market watch. Friday, local trivia. This can be different. These are a little bit, the calendar's a little bit geared more towards Facebook, I think. You can have calendars for different social media platforms. Twitter can have a totally different calendar, or you can kind of combine them together. We'll talk a little bit more about that on do's and don'ts. Okay, just touch on a few things, goals and strategies. How do you formulate goals and strategies and budgets? You can do market research, company Google searches, related industry, vendors, see what other people are doing. Company Google searches, this is where we start most of our strategies, is doing market research, figuring out what other companies are doing. A lot of times you don't have to reinvent the wheel, it's already being done somewhere. So that's a really good point. Defining your audience and typical customer behavior. That's a very overlooked aspect. A lot of people, a lot of businesses I see that we come into contact haven't even defined their audience a lot of times. Developing goals and strategies, branding, design, digital marketing collateral. Having some good design, having good branding for your company is also an important aspect, and social media and all of these things just help to reinforce that, so you don't want to ever forget your brand's identity in any of these things. Content management system for a website can save you a lot of time, having a content management system. An example of a content management system would be WordPress or Joomla for your website. There are other ones out there, but those are probably the most well-known. Email marketing system. The important aspects of email marketing systems is basically it saves you a lot of time. They can be great for automation and integration, and those are the most important factors. Saving you a lot of time and also easily integrating with your website and social media and the other aspects of your campaign. Choosing social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Foursquare, Instagram. Again, we'll talk a little bit more about this in the do's and the don'ts. Social media marketing integration, you want to make sure, again, integration is key. Different social media strategies for each platform, we touched on that. Reputation and reviews. Honestly, all of these can be a whole workshop. Paid advertising and offline versus online. A lot of people think that being an internet marketer and focused on internet marketing, that you take a lot of focus off of paid advertising, but in fact, I do exactly opposite. I tell all my clients that if you have the budgets for it and you can do it, newspaper ads, magazine ads, traditional advertising is still very important and can help you in social media and build your audiences. Okay, last page for goals and strategies. It's all about the data. This is an example here. Stats and insights and analytics will tell you more than you can imagine. The data will tell you what changes you should make to your goals and your strategies. So here's just a quick example of some stats from one of our clients on Facebook. It helped us reshape a little bit of our strategies. And all this literally took us 5 seconds to post. It's a paddleboarding Easter bunny. And it was a huge surprise to us that we reached more than 19,000 people with just this one post. There's virally, it says versus organic, so we have 519 organic and we have about almost 20,000 virally. So it kind of shows you the power of just having fun on social media sometimes. A lot of times people try to make it all about their business and force things down people's throat. So this is kind of what we learned for this particular campaign, is we ended up having a lot more fun with their campaign, and as a result, we got a lot better numbers.
Was that in several social medias or just one?
This is only Facebook. And that's a good point, because Twitter and Facebook and all these social media outlets can be very different audiences. Even though you have your set target audience, you can have little subcultures of your audiences throughout the different platforms. Organic, non-paid. So you see organic a lot, it came from Google when they compare sponsored paid advertising between just the organic natural listing. So if you did a search on Google, a good way to define it is you see the sponsored results at the top that's kind of highlighted, and then the column on the right, those are all paid, and that is not organic. The ones that come up below that people focus SEO, a lot of SEO attention and money on, search engine optimization, are the organic or natural listings. So this is organic, and this is just Facebook's insights, and their definitions and terminologies can be a little different. The reason why they have organic is because they have paid, and they have a very lucrative advertising industry. So their paid is zero because we actually have no paid campaigns for this particular client. If we would have implemented a paid campaign for this particular post, because you can actually on Facebook pay Facebook to promote one individual post for you. And if that was the case, then we would have had some action on here probably. But in this case, it just shows you organic and viral. And we all know what viral is, right? Viral is just the spreading of the post or the article. This is specific to pages on Facebook, business pages now, not personal. They're very different. Content creation. This is one of the most important aspects of a campaign, because without content, you have nothing to share. You have nothing to put out there on social media. We start with the website and the blog because that's the best place to put your content, to direct people. The rule of thumb that we look at is the social media and all the efforts you do typically, in most cases, are to direct people back to your website, because that's where your calls to action are again. So if we look at just some of the highlighted pieces here, we have create and organize content, publish blog articles, photos and design. Again, there's branding coming into play. Promote your calls to action. So if you do a blog article, you don't have to promote your calls to action. A lot of times you'll have sidebars and other areas on your site that are doing that for you, so you don't have to always build that into your content. If you just by getting people to your blog or your website to read that content is a lot of times more than enough. Search engine optimization. Blog articles dramatically help with search engine optimization, and this is a really good area where you can focus and hone in on your search engine optimization campaigns, which helps you get the organic listings. Update your online infrastructure and share throughout your infrastructure. That's basically, once you do an article on your blog or your website, it's all about putting it out there through your infrastructure, your newsletters, your social media, and all that other stuff. Email marketing. The core purpose of email marketing or a newsletter is to deliver convenient updates right to your reader's inbox. A lot of people overlook email marketing. Email marketing still, and as long as I've been doing this, has always had the highest return on investment, or ROI. Just a couple things to focus on with email marketing. It's a really good idea. It can save you a whole lot of time if you use professional software. Example of professional software would be MailChimp or Constant Contact. I'm sure you're all familiar with that. It's web-based, it's measurable, it's easy to manage. They have some great automated features and great integration features, so you can integrate with your website and social media to get your content and your message out there. Some good points is it's cheap, it's not expensive to do. You got a wide range, you help build a close relationship with your audience, higher ROIs we talked about, and it's measurable we talked about. Okay, just some stats, some reinforcement here on why we believe in email marketing so much. The number of worldwide email accounts is expected to increase from 3.2 billion in 2012 to 3.6 billion in 2013 this year. 112 emails sent and received per day by an average corporate user. Email versus social media. 246 million emails are sent per day versus 55 million on Facebook and 175 million on Twitter. More and more people are stuck in their email inboxes these days. 80% of your time I can attest to, 70 to 80% of my time is in my inbox. So what better way? And this is why people are all getting on Facebook and social media, because people are always on there. So you have a very open audience. The same with email. Okay, social media. Why we're here. Social media. Define your goals. Same type of thing. Define your goals. Determine your level of investment, time and money, or just time. If you don't want to hire a strategist or hire a company to help you with it, it really just comes down to time. Money, if you're still doing it yourself, it can come down to money if you want to do paid advertising. there's two aspects: build your audience and engage your audience. If you're just starting out and you have zero, then all you're doing is building your audience. A lot of times, that's the best time to start with a paid campaign, to just bump up your followers and your likes, just to get that initial push to find your target audience on the social media platform of choice. Choosing your platform: Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest. You want to focus on the best platform to get started, and then add the new ones as you go. Depending on if you're a small business or a corporate, typically if you're a small business, your time and money is very limited, so even more the reason to focus typically on Facebook and Twitter first. They're the big ones. But again, the industry you're in can dictate maybe LinkedIn or Pinterest is better for you to start on. Building your audience and engaging your audience. Just to give you an example, we have a magic number depending on the industry, but around 1,000 or 2,000 followers or likes is typically where we do a bigger shift from building to engaging. We have an example. We have a client that's got over 2,000 or 3,000 likes on Facebook, maybe 2,500, and we do no more building for them anymore. All we do is engagement. And engagement alone, good engagement for that particular client, gets us about 36 likes per week. And I forget who told me the other day, I just heard this the other day, that each Facebook like equals $7, I think is what I heard. So, setting up a weekly calendar, we talked about. Build and strengthen relationships and trust. That's an important aspect a lot of people overlook. They try to get people straight onto the call to action a lot of times, when we all know that you usually don't buy or engage in one of the calls to action unless you have some trust or relationship built. And that is a big important key for social media, is building that relationship and that trust with your audience before you start trying to sell them or direct them to your calls to action. Giveaways and promos can help with that. Highlighting your calls to action is always something you want to do on social media. And encourage e-newsletter subscriptions. Also, again, helps build and strengthen that relationship. A lot of times the newsletters that we try to send out are resources and information that our audiences benefit from. So that's just yet another way to build that relationship and trust. Okay, do's and don'ts. You have these. I'll just read through them with you real quick. They're not mandatory, but definitely recommended. Do get a smartphone with internet. Do make time for social media. This is one of the biggest ones I think that people overlook. They get on and then they forget about it. Just like anything, you got to make it a routine. You have to build it into your schedule. Do post regularly. Make it a routine, setting aside time to post, monitor, and maintain your networks. Do join social networks socially to practice and get a confident feel for them. That's an important one. I think somebody asked me a question before we even started. They're just not familiar with it and not comfortable with it. And just like anything, it takes practice. You got to just jump in and start playing around. And what better way to do it than with your personal profile or make something else up before you really try to jump in and represent your business. Do use organizational tools like Hootsuite, Google Alerts, Google Analytics, Evernote, Dropbox, Basecamp, etc. These are all great tools. We use every single one of these. We use every single one of these. We don't use Evernote so much anymore, but Basecamp and Dropbox for us is good, and Hootsuite, we use Hootsuite as well. And we can talk more about what these are later if you guys have questions. Do incorporate a social media budget into your overall marketing budget. Do have social media strategies with a target audience and goals. Do post relevant content for your business. And do network with and socialize with other industry-related businesses and vendors. One key to building that we've found is if you have some good relationships with other industry professionals or vendors and they have thousands of followers why not try socializing with them? You can really build your following by working together with them. Again, social media being the key, social. Don'ts. I like the first one. This is an important one. It's hard to do for everybody. Don't take negative feedback personally. When replying to negative comments, use the last technique. And there's other techniques out there. This is one we use. Last, listen, apologize, solve, and thank. A lot of people forget the last one, thank. Listen to what they say, apologize to what happened, and try to offer solutions for the problem. And then afterwards, come back and thank them. Say, hey, thank you for letting us know about this. We appreciate you. Don't join all social networks. Not all social networks may be right for your business. Pick one or two to focus on. This is especially good for non-corporate businesses. For corporate businesses, it's a very different story, and I don't know if you guys have read anything about it out there, but I saw a couple articles in the last year about little NASA substations in all these corporate businesses where they have a staff of 6 or 12, and that's all they do all day is monitor all the social media networks for these big corporations. So it's big for corporate. Don't overpost. Overposting, maybe over 3 posts a day, maybe too much for small businesses or social networks with a smaller audience. Again, that's more geared towards a smaller audience. A lot of the corporates will post excessively over that in some cases. I'd say a small audience is typically small businesses. So anywhere from 1,000 to 5,000 would probably be a small audience. When you're going even under, I'm saying even under. When you're saying large audience, we're talking about corporations. We're talking about Home Depot, you know, the big corporate guys. And a lot of times it's good to watch them and see what they're doing and learn some techniques from their social media strategies. Because they have those big teams. We represent companies. We have companies that we represent their social media campaigns and their complete internet marketing campaigns. And the hardest part, the first 2 or 3 months is always really slow because you're getting to know their audience, you're getting to know their techniques. We try to offer all the solutions we can for them to communicate that information and that content to us. And it takes a while to get those relationships established. I'd say hiring a professional social media strategist just to get you started would probably be the best idea. So you can set short-term, long-term goals and really have some good strategies set up for the future of what you're trying to do. Okay, so where were we? Don't overpost. Don't ignore your audience. This is a big one. And this is something that happens with a lot of big corporations or companies with bigger audiences is they haven't jumped on the bandwagon yet, but everybody personally has. And what you're seeing right now on social media is a lot of the personal profiles going straight to Facebook pages and posting their complaints or trying to communicate through there. They don't use the traditional picking up the phone anymore or sending an email. They're going right to the Facebook page and they're posting it to the wall for everybody to see. And at the very, very worst, no response is probably the worst. So, you know, don't ignore your audience is a huge do not. At the very least, getting somebody on it to direct somebody. What we do a lot of is, we don't do a lot of it, but we do damage control sometimes for our clients. We don't know a lot of their protocol and a lot of things that they do. So if it's something that's pretty standard, we'll say, okay, go to this website or go to this contact page or send an email to this person. So it only takes us a couple seconds to actually properly answer their concern. Or if it's something major that we don't know, we'll instantly call or send an email to the manager or the owner and tell them, hey, you had this negative post on here, how would you like us to handle it? We try not to delete things as much as possible. What we will typically do, if it's really bad and we don't want to post it on there, is we'll hide it. You can hide it from your timeline. That means nobody can see it except for the person that posted it, so they have no idea that you removed it. So there's lots of little tricks like that you can do. But you always want to address it no matter what, whether you address it publicly for everyone to see on your wall or you address it privately via directing them to an email or another contact. Don't be too automated. Audiences don't like too many computer-generated postings or posting the same word-for-word posts from one network to the next. We found this a lot with Facebook to Twitter. There's plugins and extensions and things you can use that will automatically post from your blog to Facebook and then to Twitter, and it's all very automated. You're not really engaging your audiences very well when you do that. So, but if your budgets and your strategies are limited, then that's what you have to work with. It's probably in some cases better to do it. But if you can at the very least just reword your post a little bit for Twitter. You can say the same content across all platforms, but just rewording a little bit sometimes goes a long way. Don't worry about mistakes like typos or simple errors. You're human, just apologize, correct the mistake if needed. One thing that also just came up, we actually took it out of here, is misinformation. This is a topic that's pretty popular right now. The old news systems, it'd take hours for something breaking to get out there. Now it happens instantly on Twitter and Facebook. If something happens, millions of people know about it. So what's happening on the news side of things is there's a lot of misinformation going out. I'm sure you guys have all heard, I think there was some, the Chinese pilot's names is one. There was another one not too long ago. The bombing, they got the names wrong. So instantly, you got to be careful too if you're a bigger company, if you're going to repost or retweet things. You want to make sure those sources are credible, and even credible sources make mistakes. So it's one thing, misinformation we took out of here, but it's still something you need to call attention to. You don't want to brush it under the rug. If you do help promote misinformation, you want to come back and correct it as soon as possible and say, hey, sorry, we got this information over here, it happens, but here's the correct information now. So misinformation is a big one too nowadays that's pretty recently making headlines. Statistics and analysis, I think, is the most important one. Facebook has their own insights, but Google Analytics by far is the best one out there. Since most of your efforts are directing people to your website, having a Google Analytics installed is probably one of the best things you can do. Actually, you don't need to focus on that. Let's go to the next slide because I have some examples of why to use Google Analytics. The biggest one being it's free. It just takes literally minutes to install it on your website if you know what you're doing, of course, if you have a webmaster. A lot of times though, nowadays there's themes that people use for WordPress that already have little boxes set aside for you just to drop that code in, so you don't even have to know what you're doing, just copy and paste. So a partial list of what analytics data can tell you: the number of daily visitors to your site, what keywords or phrases are used to find your site, the most popular pages on your site, referral sites and sources to your site. That's a big one. If you have a paid advertising campaign with a local Hawaii Tribune Herald and they publish it to their website, you can see how much traffic is coming from them. Paid campaigns on Google, anything. You can track the success of anything, and this will help you change and rework your strategies. Geographic location of your users, how long visitors stay on your site, and exit pages and rates of bounce rates. And bounce rates is something people talk a lot about in some occasions. And bounce rates refer to if somebody hits your page and leaves instantly. And so you can track that. So if you have typically a 30 to 40% bounce rate is average, and if you're running a bounce rate of 80%, you got something wrong with that page or something wrong with your marketing strategy. So your stats can tell you more than you can possibly imagine, and we always look at our stats weekly and monthly. You can micromanage your stats, and a funny one is we had a client who we did a website for a long time ago, and we just implemented a marketing campaign for him 4 months ago or something, and we turned him on to the analytics. We gave him access to the analytics, and he called me twice, I think, so excited. He's in it every other hour looking at his stats going, wow, this is amazing. So but he's a good businessman, and he understands the power of those stats. He's able to track everything down to a, an exact number on the success of his paid marketing budgets or non-paid marketing budgets. And the last thing is repeat the process. We could go into tons of detail on each of these points, but I think we got a good overview on the strategy that we try to focus on, the 5-step process to our integrated marketing system. And that's it. Thank you, guys.